Today, I'm going to discuss something that is very powerful, something that is very much a part of our lives, but something that is very rarely talked about, and that is envy. Envy is deeply ingrained in human nature. It's an emotion that we feel intensely, but very few people talk about it. And that's because it's one of those emotions that feels very yucky, ugly. We don't want to admit we have it, yet we all do. When we feel that someone has something more than we have, they're more intelligent, more beautiful, more rich, more something, they have some quality or attribute that we don't have, and we would like to have it, we experience envy. And when we are desirous of that it may come up in many different ways. It may come up as resentment, it may come up as anger, it may come up in many different ways. It may lead us to work very hard to acquire the things that we want that others have. I remember the time when I first saw the iPod. I remember I want to have this thing, right? Or whatever it has been. There's been things all along. Oh, I want to have this kind of car. I want to have this kind of house. And when you've seen something that someone else has, it sets that fire, that passion. And it's the thing that most advertisers take advantage of, most companies take advantage of. It is the basis of our economy. Our entire economic engine rests upon this one thing. Like, how would I know I want something? Like, how would my desire be fulfilled unless I saw something somewhere? Maybe I saw it on a movie or a video. I saw it with somebody. Especially if I saw it with somebody, that all the more makes it seem like, well, if they can have it, why can't I? If they can be that way, why can't I? So in whichever area you're thinking about, intellect, beauty, material things, whatever it might be, we're always looking at others and comparing. Constantly, our mind is comparing. And then think about all the struggle that we go through to get that, and how our entire life goes on a treadmill to acquire the very things that others have that we wish we had. And our whole life is devoted to this emotion, to desire. And if you look at it from the perspective of the Vedas, they talk about kama, which is, some people say that's lust, but I think that's actually desire. So desire, but where is desire born from? When you see something, you find something that is attractive, especially if someone else has it. So that is matsara, jealousy or envy. Can be applied both ways, and there are slight gradations between the two. Lobha then forms. So first there's desire, then there is envy. Well, they can go side by side, really. Then there's greed. I want more. If I get some of it, I want more. If I get this thing, then I want that thing. And then as I have it, then there's an attachment for it. So that's moha. And then there is a sense of pride, mad or ahankar, that I have this. And if I lose it, then there's anger or disappointment or resentment. Someone took it away from me. And all of these, if you look at all of them, desire, envy, greed, attachment, pride, anger, they all center around I and mine. So whether it's a personal attribute that you're aspiring for, or whether it's something that you wish to have, or someone, in all cases it centers around I and mine. So that becomes a very telling tale of what really forms attachment and what really causes suffering. I and mine. Now, I mean, it's very prevalent. We'll see it in every area of our lives. You'll see sibling rivalry even when you're young. You'll see it amongst friends. You'll see it later as adults. This thing of envy, this ugly monster will creep up. And it's been so normalized that we don't think anything of it. It can lead to feelings of bitterness, jealousy, and even hatred towards others. It can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction, self-pity, and even toxic competition. Aristotle defined envy as pain at the sight of another's good fortune. stirred by those who have what we ought to have. Bertrand Russell said that envy was one of the most potent causes of unhappiness. In the Mahabharata, Duryodhan says to his father, "The prosperity of the Pandavas, his cousins, is burning me deeply. I cannot eat, sleep, or live in the knowledge that they are better off than me." It's that powerful. In Christianity, envy is considered one of the 7 deadly sins. Cain was envious of Abel because God favored him, and as a result, he killed his brother. So how do we overcome envy? There are a few different things that might help. In the normal psychological parlance, they would say, be grateful, practice gratitude, and focus on the things you do have rather than what you lack. This will help you appreciate your blessings and feel content in your achievements. You might cultivate compassion. Try to understand and empathize with others rather than competing with them. That might help. You might want to shift your focus. Instead of comparing yourself with others, focus on your own growth and progress. Set goals that are achievable and work on improving yourself. Then the other is to avoid comparisons, and that's of course easier said than done, because who knows, our mind just takes us wherever it wants to take us. Most of us haven't learned how to be able to direct our mind in the places we want it to go. So it's going off on whatever ride it wants to go on in whichever direction it wants to go. So yes, it does help to avoid comparisons by bringing the mind back to, okay, this is where I'm at. If I want that, then how do I cultivate a process to get there? And of course, we can practice things like meditation and mindfulness that will help us go away from our thoughts and emotions and focus on the present moment. But more powerful than all of that is to become attached to something even higher. So it is said that for all these things, whether that is desire, we can desire, the highest thing to desire is to desire God. We can actually channel all of these towards God. So to desire God, to be envious in a positive way towards those who have achieved more than us, who have become more advanced, to be inspired by them, to feel, yes, if they can do it, I can do it too. I can get closer to God. I can become more focused. I can become more determined. I can become more greedy for God, which brings us to the next one, lobh, to become more greedy for God. And then to develop an attachment to hearing about, chanting, and meditating on God. And not to have pride that I am so great in my achievement, but rather that I am so blessed that God has allowed me to walk on this path and given me the right tools. So in that sense, a sense of pride, I am His and He is mine. And in this way we can purify all of these desires and all of these things that could have led us astray and could have been the cause of our downfall into the material entanglement. Srila Prabhupada talks about how an envious person cannot advance spiritually, and that the Bhagavatam, which we've been reading, is meant for those who are non-envious. To really advance spiritually, we have to learn to conquer this thing. What is a non-envious person? And this too is explained. A non-envious person is a person who is happy for another person's spiritual or material advancement. And he encourages them and sincerely wishes them well or blesses them to grow even further. This might be something you want to practice. To be happy for another person's spiritual or material advancement. To encourage them and sincerely wish them well or even bless them to grow even further. You see, when you give, you receive. But you have to give without any aim or agenda. That's vital. In truly caring for another being and their happiness and their progress and their well-being, we can get out of the fixation that our mind and ego has on I and mine. We then become generous in spirit, and we become giving rather than trying to take to look good and to feel good. So with that, let's begin with the Bhagavatam today, and let's see where the stories are going to take us, because they're going to tell us a lot more about this and how people overcame envy. Let's get started. Okay, so we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, and this is chapter, let's see, 19. So we've been talking about King Prithu last time, and he was known as a Shaktavesh avatar of Vishnu. Now, I'll tell you in simple language. It means that he was a living entity like you and me, right? A tiny infinitesimal soul, tiny part of God, infinitesimal, right? Where God is infinite, we are infinitesimal. We are minute. Anksha is the word used in Sanskrit. And God is the everything, the Vibhu, the all of everything. So King Prithu had acquired powers from Vishnu because of his devotion. And it is because of those powers that he was now considered to be an empowered incarnation, Shaktavesh avatar of Vishnu. That doesn't mean he was Vishnu. He was an empowered, just want to stress the point. Okay, now who is Vishnu? Vishnu is referred to as the supreme being in the Vedas, or God as some would say. It's just that the word God's been given so much of a bad name that we almost don't like to use it. But that's why I use the term supreme being or the supreme Godhead, who is above all the devas or demigods that are mentioned in the Vedas. And so Vishnu, and the highest aspect of Vishnu is Krishna. While some think that Krishna comes from Vishnu, the Vedas say the opposite. They say that Krishna is the original and from him comes Vishnu. And Vishnu then deals with the material world. Okay, now what are the words used for Vishnu that are actually being used in this verse in the Bhagavatam as we are beginning to talk about it? The word used is Sarvatma or Paramatma, the witness. This is a word that comes up a lot in various other paths, such as Buddhism and Advaita, where they talk about witness consciousness. But who is this witness? Who is witnessing everything? That is the Sarva Atma or the Paramatma, the great soul, the witness within everyone's heart. He's also referred to as Prabhu, the proprietor of everything. Therefore, because he is the proprietor of everything, he is the supreme enjoyer. And we try to imitate that. We have that quality in us. We want to enjoy separate from God, which is not feasible. When we come into alignment, when we recognize that, hey, we're living in something that was already existing before us. When we find out who is the proprietor of this world that we live in, who is the one that created the facility for this body that we now inhabit and this mind that we now possess. Who is the one that gave us all this? Who is the proprietor of everything? When we find out that is Vishnu, and above Vishnu even Krishna. And so if he is the proprietor, then everything is for his enjoyment, including us. He is known also as Ishvara, the controller of everything. He is known as Sarva Loka Guru, or the ultimate teacher for everyone, as we see from the Bhagavad Gita, where he teaches us the essence of how to live our lives. And then through all the great personalities in the Bhagavatam, also he teaches us. And he's also known as Hari, one who takes away all miserable conditions. He says in Bhagavad Gita that Sarva dharman parityajamam ekam sharanam braja, that just surrender unto me. So give up all your religiosity, give up all religions, give up your dharma, even your duties, your responsibilities, everything. Mam ekam sharanam braja, to me alone surrender. Sharanam, mam ekam, to me alone. Sharanam braja, surrender. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will free you from all karmic and sinful reactions. Sarva papa. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishamima suchaha. And I will give you moksha and liberation. But what is this moksha and how desirable is it? We're going to find out today. All right, so the third character, or third personality we're going to be speaking about, there was Prithu, there was Vishnu, and then there is Indra, who we're going to come. And Indra is the king of the demigods. So there are many devas or demigods who are in charge of various aspects of the material universe and in charge of running the show from fire and rain and all the elements that we see around us. Ultimately, the king of all those demigods is Indra. He's also a jiva, like you and me, but highly evolved being, but imperfect like all of us. All right, so then we have, Prithu, Vishnu, and finally we have Indra. Okay. Right. This might be nice too. So, once King Prithu initiated the performance of 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas, or horse sacrifices. Now, horse sacrifice is a very interesting thing. They get together and they sacrifice animals. And you might think, oh my God, these people talk about being vegetarian and here they're sacrificing animals. No, it's not quite how it seems. In the yagyas that were done, an animal would be placed into the sacrificial arena, and then after being sacrificed, it would be brought out again alive and rejuvenated and anew from that fire sacrifice. That's what made it so amazing. Now, Prithu performed 100 horse sacrifices. This was a feat that only Indra had done in the past. So here this great king was out to do something that only the king of demigods had done. During this ceremony, Vishnu personally attended along with Brahma and Shiva. They were all there, along with the various demigods, and all of them brought wonderful gifts for the king. When Indra, the king of the demigods, saw what was going on, he became envious. Prabhupada writes, King Indra had performed 100 horse sacrifices and become king of the heavenly planets. He now feared that through the performance of these sacrifices, Prithu would develop great mystical powers and might occupy his position. You know how it is when someone tries or someone becomes very powerful and we become afraid that they're going to take away our power, our position, our fame, our glory. If you're the CEO of a company and you see someone else rising who's a brilliant star and this person now threatens your position because they're doing what you do and you did, the things that made you glorious, they're now doing them. Yeah, there's envy. And there is fear. That envy is, of course, driven by fear. And the thing we start to learn here is that everyone in the material world, including the demigods, and of course any of us that are in power, anyone who's in power, can be and is envious. So we realize that this is not just something that we small little humans and mortals experience, but even highly powerful, highly evolved beings like Indra experience envy. Now, when King Prithu had performed 99 of the horse sacrifices and was about to do the last one, Indra dressed as a sannyasi. Sannyasis in India are sadhus. They're liberated persons. They'll usually be seen wearing saffron clothing, kind of orangish in color. You might have seen them. Some of them have very matted hair. It's not necessary. Some have shaved heads. But Indra was not a sannyasi. He was not a liberated person. He was very much a worldly person who enjoyed luxuries and comforts and wine, women, and song, and all of that stuff in the heavenly planets. And here he came posing as an imposter, But not only that, just to steal the horse, he made himself invisible and took it away with him. Now, Prithu's son, the King Prithu, who was doing the ceremony, his son was informed by the sage Atri, who was also present. He told him about Indra's trick. And the son of Prithu became very angry and started chasing after Indra. Now, Indra, being a demigod, was flying. And Prithu's son was also able to do the same. He chased after him, seeing Indra in the dress of a saintly person. He was deceived and did not release his arrow. So he was ready to fire the arrow, but he held back because he saw Indra in the disguise of a saintly person. He thought, oh my goodness, I can't kill such a person. These are highly evolved beings. I cannot kill them. And then Sage Atri informed this boy that this was Indra and this was not some saintly person. And he instructed him to kill Indra because Indra had fallen from his position. He had become envious, he had become greedy, he had fallen to a very low level to be able to do such an act. He had really stepped, really degraded himself by doing this. So Indra, realizing that the boy was now about to release his arrow, Indra fled, leaving the horse behind. And so the son of Prithu, the King Prithu, brought the horse back to the sacrificial arena. And then Indra, with his supernatural powers, covered the entire scene with a dense darkness. And once again, made himself invisible and stole the horse, second time around. And the heroic son of Prithu once again chased him. The same sequence of events followed. He saw Indra in this disguise, this time as a different kind of sadhu or saintly person, and again was about to not kill him. Atri again told him, then Indra again gave up the horse and became invisible. So this happened twice. It's quite odd. At this point, the king, Prithu, found out what was going on and became extremely angry and prepared to kill Indra himself. The priests that were doing this ceremony said, hey, we don't think you should go out and kill Indra. Only animals were to be sacrificed during this ceremony, not demigods. We're supposed to offer make these offerings to the demigods. So the Brahmins, the priests, offered to cast Indra into the fire by Vedic mantras. And as they were about to do so, Brahma, who was also there, intervened and he forbade them, saying that they were trying to appease the demigods, but all the demigods were part of Indra. So the whole thing was going to backfire. Indra's offenses by dressing up as a saintly person and being an imposter are said to be the beginning of so many others who have come along being godmen or saintly people in disguise, people who have no qualification, people who have no attainment of spirituality. And because the average person has no idea of what a highly evolved being needs to be like, what are the qualities, what are the symptoms, or how to recognize such a person, because the average person does not know, these imposters are able to get away even in present day time by deluding the mass of people. They gain huge followings, and the mass of people are led astray. So this all began with Indra, this kind of deception, and led to many unwanted religions. Anyways, Brahma said, let there only be 99 sacrifices, enough. You don't need to do any more. Let there be good fortune to both you, that is Prithu, the king, and for Indra. Everyone, let everyone be blessed. You are all part and parcel of God. Therefore you should not be angry with King Indra, who is none different from you. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, the more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of material entanglement. Think about this statement. So often there is a problem and we try to fix the problem. And then the more we try to fix it, the deeper we go into the entanglement, into the attachment, into the It's like a dark pit. Like sometimes people are gambling and they go and they lose some amount of money and then they go, and this is like the most typical case, and then they want to gamble some more and then they gamble some more until they've gambled away everything, right? Because they can't stop themselves at that point. They're just thinking, oh, if I do a little something more, then it'll be all right. Then I'll recover all my money. And the same happens in business. People don't know when to walk away. They don't know that, hey, this problem is not a problem I can solve. This is not in my hands. So he says, remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, the more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material entanglement. King Prithu accepted the words of Brahma and concluded the ceremony. He made peace with King Indra and then received the blessings of the Brahmins, or the priests, and the demigods that were present there. Then Vishnu appeared with Indra. So Vishnu got hold of Indra. Vishnu was also present there. He got hold of Indra and brought him along. And Indra was so crestfallen and wanted to be forgiven. Vishnu said to Prithu, he says, O king, one who is advanced in intelligence and eager to perform welfare activities for others is considered the best amongst human beings. So hear these words carefully. Most people in today's time are all about themselves. They want to make themselves richer. They want to make themselves more prosperous. They want to have more, do more, be more. They don't think of others. Even someone who wants to be liberated is often, or can certainly be considered selfish, because it's all about what can I do for me. And today we talk about self-love and we talk about all these things, but it's all about me. Here Vishnu is saying that one who is advanced in intelligence and eager to perform welfare activities for others is considered best amongst human beings. An advanced human being is never malicious to others. If a personality like you is carried away by the influence of Maya, or the external material energy, then all your advancement may be considered simply a waste of time. So you see, most people think they're advancing spiritually, but then because of their selfish acts, because of their obsession with themselves, they pour water on their own spiritual growth and slow down or even destroy their progress. Vishnu continued, the individual soul is one, pure, non-material, and self-effulgent. He is the reservoir of all good qualities and is all-pervading. He is without material covering and is the witness of all activities. One who has fully realized this is never affected by material nature and is always situated in lovingly serving me without motive for material gain, and gradually becomes very satisfied from within. So, a truly evolved person understands that they're not the body, that they're the soul. That soul which they are is pure. That soul is non-material, is self-effulgent. It is full of good qualities and is all-pervading. See, it's not that we have to develop good qualities. It's not that we have to be good. We are good. We are the essence of goodness already. We are perfect already. Not our material body and mind. No. Not that. Our soul, which is part of God, is already perfect in every way. Our work is to remove the blocks that prevent us from experiencing it and from living from the soul. So Vishnu is saying here, one who has fully realized this is never affected by material nature and is always situated in lovingly serving God or Vishnu without motive for material gain, and gradually becomes very satisfied from within. When the heart is cleansed of all material contamination, one's mind becomes expanded and transparent, and one can see things clearly. At that stage of life, there is peace. one gets all good fortune and one is situated in the transcendental level of Brahman. One is actually the spiritual plane. And just as the Brahman is transcendental, the person who has attained that state, whose heart has been cleansed of all material contamination, whose mind has become expanded and transparent, develops equanimity and peace, and now has all good fortune. Such a person is on the transcendental level of Brahman, of God realization. Being connected with me, as in Vishnu, as in God, such a person has intense friendship and affection for me and is equipoised and treats everyone equally and is no longer agitated by temporary material happiness and distress. So these are the signs of an evolved being, and it's so important to understand that, because without that understanding, we just keep falling for whoever comes along, and says a few nice words and has a few as an interesting robes that they're wearing, or following of people. But it's not about the number of followers they have. And it's not about whether they build big temples or not, or churches or mosques or whatever it might be. It is about these qualities. Vishnu then goes on to talk about the duties of the king. He says the duty of the king is to give protection to the citizens. In doing so, he shares 1/6 of their pious activities. But if a king only takes taxes and fails to protect them, then he loses his pious activities and is liable to suffer the reactions for the impious activities of his subjects. In other words, he gets the karma of his subjects. When does that happen? It happens when he does not give them protection and he does not guide them towards God. My dear king, one who does not possess elevated qualities and behavior cannot possibly achieve my favor simply by performance of sacrifices, severe austerities, or mystic yoga. This is a statement one really must understand, that one who does not possess elevated qualities and behavior. So ultimately it comes down to this: elevated qualities and behavior. One who does not possess these cannot achieve my favor, achieve the favor of God, simply by performance of any kind of ceremony, sacrifice, prayer, meditation, you name it, even by performing severe austerities or mystic yoga. It says none of that is going to bring you the favor, the blessings of God. I am very captivated by your elevated qualities and excellent behavior, he says to the king, and thus I am very favorably inclined towards you. You may therefore ask from me any benediction you like. Now I want you to think about this. If you were asked by God, not you go and sat before God and said, God, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that, give me a big house, give me a car, give me a nice wife or husband, give me a nice... No. What if you were asked by God, ask me for any benediction you like, anything you want, you can have it. What would you ask for? Right? I'm sure you've got a list, and most people do. But here, King Prithu had everything, and he was not interested in anything, not even what he had. But before he answered, Indra, who was standing nearby, just became really ashamed of his own actions and bowed down to touch the feet of King Prithu. This is an act of total surrender and humility. And the king, instead of letting him touch his feet, immediately picked him up and embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all his anger towards him. This indeed is compassion. This indeed is forgiveness. This indeed is the sign of a highly evolved being. Prithu then continued to worship Vishnu with increasingly ecstatic love and devotion, with eyes filled with tears and voice faltering and choked up. Prithu embraced Vishnu within his heart. These are some of the symptoms of a highly evolved being, that when they experience intense love for God, their eyes fill up with tears, their voice begins faltering, they've experienced being choked up naturally. It's not as a show to anybody else, but just a natural phenomena. The hairs stand on end. They feel just so moved in the presence of God, or in the presence of his energy. And Prithu then said, "My dear Vishnu, my dear Lord, why should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature?" See, people who are bewildered by this world, right, who are enamored by it, bewildered by it, they ask God for all kinds of things. He says, why should a learned person ask you for such things? Such benedictions are available automatically, even in the lives of living entities suffering in hellish conditions. What do you mean automatically? Well, think about it. We've all been given the blessings of being alive. If not even one breath could be taken without the blessings of God. Your heart wouldn't beat, your lungs wouldn't move, your breath wouldn't go in and out, your brain wouldn't function, you wouldn't be able to stand. Nothing would happen if it weren't for his blessings. And we take it all for granted, and we assume that, oh no, it's just happening. Oh really? Try to make it happen. Try making a dead person come to life. Someone who you love very much, someone you care about a lot. Try making them come back to life. If you have that power, do it. If you have the power to give birth to a living being without the womb given by God, without the semen and the egg and all of that given by God, if you can give birth to something just out of thin air, do it. Show me. Try even creating one atom. Can't do it. One strand of DNA. Can't do it. And yet we take for granted all of this incredible organism that we live in. So he says, I've already been blessed. We are all so blessed. The sun rises every day. Without that sun rising, we would be frozen out here. We would die. In a matter of days, we would be dead. If the air did not contain within it oxygen, if the plants did not take in carbon dioxide and bring out oxygen to replenish the earth, we would all die. We would not be able to survive. If the temperature of the sun did not stay maintained at a certain level, if the oceans did not come to a certain point and then go back, we would not survive. All of this we take for granted. So he says, all of these, you've already blessed us with so much. Then he goes on, King Prithu goes on and he says, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence. You know how many people want this liberation, this freedom from suffering, this moksha, to be able to merge into the existence of God, to become one with God, to go into the light. He says, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but then I will no longer be able to drink the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1,000,000 years, for thus I may be able to hear about your glories from the mouths of your pure devotees. This is the real benediction. This is the real blessing we should all seek. This is the true fulfillment of desire. This is the true fulfillment of greed. This is the true fulfillment of envy. To want more and more and more of God. To become thirsty, to become hungry, to become greedy, to become envious, to have more and more and more of that beautiful love of God. Nothing can compare to that. To the degree that you have tasted it, to that degree you will become intoxicated by it. To that degree that you have experienced it, you will become addicted to it. To that degree that you have found it, you will become attached to it. And you will not be willing to let it go for all the wealth in the world, and all the fame, and all the pleasure. None of that will satisfy you anymore now, because you have found the real thing. My dear Vishnu, my dear Lord, you are glorified by great personalities. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of those great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. One thus gradually comes to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear your glories from your pure devotee. Great saintly persons who are always liberated constantly think of your lotus feet and lovingly engage in your devotional service because it frees one from the illusions of material existence. You know, it's very natural for us to think that we want relief from suffering. After all, everything we've done in this world, whether it is to create air conditioners or cars or restaurants or whatever else we've created, has all been to try to make our life easier and more comfortable, to try and go away from suffering and in towards pleasure. But the fact is, all of that comes at a very heavy price. We have to work hard. We have to work hard day and night to maintain a house, to maintain a family, to have a job, to do all of that. We devote our lives to it. But we do not get what we're seeking. We do not get the outcome that we desire. That outcome, that fulfillment of our desire, only comes when we find God. How do I know this? I've tasted it a little. How do I know this? Because I've seen others who've tasted it even more than me. How do I know that? Because I've seen that there are others even beyond them who have experienced this great ecstasy. So when you have tasted a drop of water from the ocean, you know what it's like. It's salty. So when you've tasted a drop of what lies in that love of God, in that association with God, in hearing about and chanting about God, once you've tasted even a bit of it, then you know there's more. And then as you hear these texts and you hear from pure devotees like these, you begin to understand, oh my gosh, this is what I want. Otherwise, the influence of the world is so strong, it sweeps us away. And we are not able to tame our mind or our desires. We're just swept away like a tsunami that comes and just sweeps us. We have no choice. We have no ability. We have no way in which we can overcome it. The only way to overcome it is by the mercy of God. King Prithu continues. He says, my dear Vishnu, my dear Lord, due to Maya, your illusory energy, all living beings in this material world have forgotten their real position as soul. And out of ignorance, they are constantly desirous of material happiness in the form of society, friendship, and love. Therefore, please do not ask me to take some material benefits from you, but as a father, not waiting for the son's demand, does everything for the benefit of the son, please bestow upon me whatever you think is best for me. Right? He's not saying, he says, I don't know anything. I am a foolish person. I have no idea what is right for me and what is best for me. But you know. So therefore bestow upon me that which is best for me. Vishnu then said, my dear king, O protector of the citizens, henceforward be very careful to execute my instructions and not be misled by anything. Anyone who lives in that way, simply carrying out my instructions faithfully, will always find good fortune all over the world. He then blessed King Prithu and departed for his spiritual abode. The king then worshipped the demigods and everyone present by offering sweet words and as much wealth as possible. King Prithu then returned to his city. Everything was beautifully decorated with flower garlands, beautiful cloth, golden gates, and fragrant incense to welcome him. The citizens dressed up in fine clothing, the priests chanted mantras, and the musicians played instruments. He was worshipped by everyone due to his magnanimity, his generosity, and his glorious activities. Prithu was unrivaled, and he ruled all the 7 islands on the surface of the globe. I haven't really researched this, but what do they mean by the 7 islands on the surface of the globe? Did they mean the continents? The 7? Did they know of all the continents on this planet? If so, they knew a lot more than we give credit to the ancient people. Perhaps they knew about the entire planet. That's why they say that he ruled over the entire planet. King Prithu's body was tall and sturdy, and his complexion was fair. His arms were full and broad, and his eyes were as bright as the rising sun. His speech was very beautiful, clearly understandable, and very pleasing to hear. Once, during a ceremony, when all the citizens as well as great saintly persons had assembled, King Prithu addressed them as follows. My dear citizens, by the grace of God, I have been appointed the king of this planet, and I carry the scepter to rule, to protect you from all danger, and to give you employment. So here you see, he talks about what is the duty of the king again. And he says to the citizens, you should execute your duties properly, and whatever is your dharma, whatever is your varna and ashram. And should always think of the Supreme Godhead within your hearts. By doing so, you will protect your own interests, and you will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. So their good deeds, see, the king encourages them to worship God and do good things and live in a way that is harmonious with each other and with the planet. And they, in turn, in doing their good deeds, the king receives the benefit of that. By serving the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt that has accumulated in their minds due to innumerable births, and thus make spiritual progress. You know, a lot of people say, well, we need to solve the problems of the world, and they try to do that by feeding the poor. They try to do that by getting them clothing and education and all kinds of things. And I'm not saying those things aren't important. Of course they are. But they forget the most important thing. And that is the real reason why human beings suffer, all of us suffer, is because of disconnection from God. Now, connecting with God doesn't mean that we form a certain religion and then we shove it down people's throats and tell them that you either follow this or I'm going to kill you, or any such thing. No. We allow, as in the Vedas, for each person to find their spiritual path and to do what is right for them. We honor and respect each person's spiritual journey by letting them know of the Supreme Being and the greatest path of all. That is loving devotion to God, by whichever faith and whichever religion you might come. That doesn't matter. The rivers, it is said that there are many rivers that flow into the ocean. Ultimately, the idea is to come to the ocean. It doesn't matter how you get there. Cultivate love of God. That's what matters. It doesn't matter by which religion you cultivated it. God doesn't care. God is not part of any religion. God doesn't care for any religion. He only cares that you develop that love, that quality of love which is present in God and which is also present in our soul, a quality of unconditional love where you want nothing but God. That is the highest form of love. And then that is the ultimate way in which to serve humanity, and for the ultimate way in which suffering ends. Because for whoever has attained this, they have found peace of mind. They have found the ultimate release from all suffering, from all duality, from all hankering, from all desire, from all enmity, from all sense of envy and greed. All of that is washed away. And what remains is the pure soul, which is a tiny fragment of God and has all the qualities of God. So this is the ultimate benefit for humanity. That's why he says that by serving the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, suffering humanity can immediately cleanse the dirt which has accumulated in their minds during innumerable births, and thus make spiritual progress. By regular service to the Brahmins, the priests, and the devotees, the Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from the heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. So this is the teaching of Prithu Maharaj and of Vishnu and so on. I wonder what your thoughts are. What do you feel about this? Do you feel that this is something you can do? Do you feel it's something unattainable? I know for myself, I used to think that it was unattainable. that only very few people could get there, that it was something that only special people could do. And I was deluded in that. Yes, there is some work to be done. Yes, there is some struggle, but it is not something reserved for a few. This is available for all of us. Why? Because all of us are spiritual beings. Because all of us are meant to be lovers of God. That is our natural dharma, our natural state. That is naturally who we are. And when we understand that, and we start to live according to that, when we stop resisting this calling from within us, because it is a calling within us. You might say, no, I have no such calling. Actually, you do. Every thought you have about the things you desire is centered around a few basic impulses. We all want happiness. We all want peace. We all want love. We all want to feel contentment and satisfaction. We want knowledge. We want freedom. Why? Have you ever thought about it? Why does everyone want the same things? I mean, at the material plane, it looks like we want so many different things, right? One person likes this kind of car, another person likes another, one person likes that kind of house, someone else likes something else, one person likes this kind of partner, and someone else likes another. It looks like we're all different and wanting different things, but at the core, if you really come to the essence of it, we actually want the same things. Because in fact, we are the same within at our core. And once we recognize that, once we go away from the delusions and the attractions of the world and we come within here, then we begin to be able to see things more clearly. And as we purify our heart and mind by hearing these things, by chanting the names of God, by hearing about God, we cleanse our heart and mind, and then we're able to see more and more clearly. And the more clearly we see, the more we realize that nothing in this world matters. The only thing that matters is to find ourselves and to find God. Because in doing that, suddenly everything else is satisfied. We have tripti, satisfaction. So I'd like to see if there's any questions, and if you guys have anything you'd like to ask, any observations, any thoughts. Let's see what we've got. Mm-hmm. Anyone on the chat? Somehow, now I'm able to see. I'm not able to see the chat for some reason. This is odd. Okay. Sorry, I'm struggling with trying to find the chat, and I may have to try a different way to get there. I know that some of you would be asking questions, and I'm not able to see them. Okay. Still not seeing anything on. Okay, does anyone on the Zoom chat have any questions? Because I'm not able to see the chat from YouTube. Any questions at all? All right. Well, I guess I'll end it here. If no one's got any questions, then I'll end here. I'm sorry I'm not able to see any of the questions on YouTube, which is usually where I get a lot of good questions from, but today I'm not able to see them. My apologies for those of you that may have tried to ask questions. I'll have to figure out what happened here. Wish you good night, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Radhe Radhe.